Hey guys, so recently I watched a video by a YouTuber called Asimov's where he played 100 matches of solo queue and he tracked some important statistics such as the survivors played, which killers were chosen the most, and etc. So I thought to myself, why not try to do the same thing and play 100 matches of solo queue. So this video will combine all the statistics I got from those 100 matches, which were played between the ranks 8 to 3 and were played between August 18th until September the 2nd. To begin with, I will start by talking about which survivors were played the most. Throughout those 100 games, I played alongside 300 random players, and I did not include myself in the findings so that I do not alter with the results, since I played as Zarina and Nia throughout the 100 matches. The most played survivor was Fang Min, who was played 39 times, which makes her a total of 13% of the total survivor player base I have encountered. The second most played character was Meg, who was played 32 times, Claudette 31 times, and in fourth came Nia, which appeared 24 times. The least picked survivors were Claire, Sybil, Jeff, and Adam, where they were played one time each. As for the characters, Jonathan, Lisa, Alessa, and Chris were not chosen at all. I will put a chart of all the survivors on screen right now. As for the killers, the most killer I faced during those 100 matches was the Huntress, who I faced 13 times, making her a total of the 13% of the killers I encountered. Coming in second was the Blight, who I faced 11 times, the third being the Nurse, who I faced 8 times, and at fourth place being Leatherface, who I faced 6 times. The least chosen killers were the Hag and the Yoni, who were chosen once each, while killers like the Doctor and the Twins were not chosen at all. I will put a chart of all the killers on screen right now. As for the perks, I will start by talking about survivor perks. I will not include my perks that I chose to not alter with the results. In 100 games, 1000 to 100 survivor perks were brought into the trial. The top 5 survivor perks are Board Time with 132 appearances, Dead Hard with 116 appearances, Iron Will with 112 appearances, Self Care with 78 appearances, and Decisive Strike with 73 appearances. All remaining perks will be shown on the screen right now. The perks that didn't appear at all in the trial are Blood Pact, Buckle Up, Built to Last, Flip Flop, Metal of Man, No Mither, Open Handed, Poised, Red Herring, Rookie Spirit, Self-Preservation, Slippery Meat, Soul Survivor, Streetwise, Up the Ante, Visionary, and Wake Up. So out of the 95 survivor perks, 17 did not appear at all. It is also important to note that out of the 4 perk slots, 9 were empty. And now for killer perks. 400 perks were brought into the trial. The top 5 killer perks are Barbecue and Chili with 42 appearances, Pop Goes the Weasel with 35 appearances, Ruin with 35 appearances, Corrupt Intervention with 23 appearances, and last, Bamboozle with 21 appearances. All remaining perks are going to be shown on the screen right now. The perks that did not appear at all are Beast of Prey, Coup de Grace, Dark Devotion, Dead Man's Switch, Dying Light, Eruption, Fire Up, Gearhead, Hangman's Trick, Hexed Third Seal, Hoarder, Hysteria, Knockout, Lightborn, Mad Grit, Nemesis, Overwhelming Presence, Remember Me, Territorial Imperative, Unnerving Presence, Unrelenting, and Zanshin Tactics. So out of 84 killer perks, 22 did not appear at all. It is also important to note that out of the 4 perk slots, 7 were empty. And now for realms and maps. It is important to note that during this time period, both Dead Dog Saloon and the game were disabled. So the maps that were brought from highest to lowest are Macmillan Estate with 15 appearances, Coldwood Farm with 12 appearances, Crotus Pren Asylum and Otahaven Records with 10 appearances each, Ormond and Yamoka Estate with 8 appearances each, Backwater Swamp and Haddonfield with 7 appearances each, Lairs Memorial Institute and Red Forest with 6 appearances each, Springwood with 4 appearances, Hawkins with 3 appearances, and Midwich with 2 appearances. As for the realms, the highest frequency map for each map is: for Autohaven, it was Wretched Shop. As for Macmillan, it had Cold Tower, Ironworks of Misery, Suffocation Pit equally brought in. Crotus Pren Asylum had the Third Ward, Yamoka had Family Residence, Backwater had Grim Pantry, Coldwind had Rotten Fields and Thompson House brought in equally. Springwood had one of each, number 5, 4, 3, and 1. As for the other maps, they only had one map per realm. It is also important to note that offerings from survivors and killers were brought to enhance the map selection. For Coldwind, an offering was brought 5 times. Haddonfield and Macmillan had 3 offerings each, Larry's 2, and for maps Autohaven, Hawkins, Red Forest, Silent Hill, Raccoon City, and Springwood, 1 offering was brought for each. And now I'm going to be discussing 3 aspects, the first being average gen completion, the second being average escape rates, and the third being hook stage upon death and escapes, as well as number of disconnects and hatch escapes. For average gen completion, the numbers will be shown on screen. 5 gens were done 60 times, 4 gens were done 14 times, 3 gens were done 11 times, 2 gens were done 9 times, 1 gen was done 5 times, and 0 gens were done only once. As for average escape rates, the numbers will be shown on screen. For 4 escapes, it happened 24 times, 3 escapes happened 19 times, 2 escapes happened 11 times, 1 escape happened 23 times, and 0 escapes happened 23 times. And now for hooks upon death that are related to average death and escapes, they will be shown on screen as well. I died on first hook 11 times, I died on second hook 13 times, and on third hook I died 24 times. And I attempted to escape successfully 52 times, which makes the total death 48 and the total escapes 52 times. In the games that I played, 6 survivors DC'd and 5 killers DC'd. As for hatch escapes that I've gotten, I was able to escape through the hatch 5 times. And now for other items and offerings that were brought into the trial. To begin with, I'll discuss flashlights. In the 100 games, 56 flashlights were brought into the trial. The yellow flashlight was brought 27 times, the green flashlight 11 times, the purple flashlight 9 times, and the anniversary event flashlight 9 times. The most brought add-on was the green battery that was brought 21 times, and the lowest being the TIR optic that was bought 1 time. As for medkits, it was brought into the trial 80 times by survivors. The brown medkit was brought 35 times, the yellow medkit 23 times, the purple 9 times, green 8 times, and the anniversary event medkit was brought 5 times. The most brought add-on was the bandages that were brought 19 times, and the lowest being the anti-hemorrhagic that was brought 3 times. As for toolboxes, it was brought 31 times into the trial. The brown toolbox was brought 13 times, the yellow 7 times, the Alex toolbox 4 times, the Comedius toolbox 3 times, Mechanics toolbox 2 times, the Engineer's toolbox and the Anniversary toolbox were brought in 1 time each. The most brought add-on was Instructions that had 7 appearances, and the lowest is Spring Clamp that was brought in once. As for keys, a total of 6 keys were brought into the trial, 4 of them being purple and 1 of each being red and green. The highest add-on was the Milky Glass that was brought in twice. As for the lowest, it is the combination of all the rest. And last, for maps, a total of 4 maps were brought into the trial, 3 of them being green and 1 of them being red. As for the add-ons, only 2 add-ons were brought for the maps, being the Map Addendum and Odd Stamp, which was brought once each. As for offerings, I will start by talking about the blood point percentage offerings from survivors and killers, then I'll bring up the other offerings. For survivors, 19 brown blood point percentage offerings were brought in, 41 yellow and 13 green. Only 2 people brought in 105% event cakes, 10 sealed envelopes, 1 bound envelope, 7 bloody party streamers, and 12 escape cakes. As for killers, 1 brown offering, 16 yellow, and 11 green, 2 people brought in 103% event cakes, 1 brought a 104%, and 9 brought in a 105 event cake. 4 got a holo shell, and 10 got a survivor pudding. As for the rest of the offerings, 7 fog thickness offerings were brought into the game, 1 of them being a murky region from a killer, and 4 being a hazy region from survivors. As for luck offerings, 6 were brought into the trial, 4 of them being a salt pouch. As for shrouds, 4 were brought into the trial, 1 of them being a shroud of separation from a killer's side. 2 coins were brought in, both being yellow coins. For wards, 2 white wards and 2 sacrificial wards were brought into the trial. For hook numbers, 2 moldy oaks, 1 putrid oak, and 1 rotten oak were brought into the trial. For mories, 3 red mories and 2 green mories were brought into the trial. And finally, for hatch locations, 2 Vigo blueprints and 2 annotated blueprints were brought into the trial. I want to thank you all for watching. Let me know if I should do that again sometime in the future, and don't forget to leave a like, as this video made me question all of my life decisions.